Okay, today I'm going to be going over what is probably the most simple strat in the game for making an incredible amount of currency at this stage in the league, and how the new league actually massively buffs this strat. I've found a couple of things out that don't seem to be common knowledge, as even the wiki is wrong about it right now. But with this new info, essence farming is quite possibly in the best state it's ever been in, where it's now not only extremely profitable, netting me anywhere from 15 to 25 divines profit per hour, depending on how fast I am, but it's now much easier and more reliable to get going. So what am I talking about? Well, this late into the league, Essence becomes one of the best money makers in the game. Everybody knows that. All four of the special essences shoot up, and in turn so does the remnant of corruption. Most people would rather farm stuff like containment abyss, so Essence becomes incredibly profitable. However, it has two sort of downsides. Downside one is even in red tier 16 maps, some of the essence mobs essentially become gods and can add a good amount of time to your maps, bringing down the money you're making quite a lot, and you might not even be able to kill half of them. I ran a bunch in tier 16 earlier. I have a build that can kill Ubers in half a minute, and some of those essence mobs genuinely doubled my map time. And downside too, for anybody that doesn't know, there is really no reason to run Essence above tier 6 maps, as Essence's potential essentially maxes out as soon as you hit yellow maps. There's no benefit to doing Essences in tier 16 versus tier 6 outside of stuff like altars, which really doesn't matter. Tier 6 to 10 maps are infinitely easier than tier 16 maps, so running Essence in these is not just incredibly profitable but incredibly easy. So what's the downside to it then? It's the yellow map sustain. When Essence is your main mechanic and you're scouring all of your maps, you will likely not drop enough maps to sustain your own strat, especially since most people will start out with a low sample size of yellow tier maps, since most people just blitz through to reds at the start of the league and won't have a stockpile of yellows. This means you either have to self-farm your yellow maps, which is incredibly tedious, or buy them in bulk, which is extremely hard to do since nobody's really selling them in bulk. So that brings me on to the new league and how it actually buffs yellow map essence farming, and that is memory tears. Now, the wiki states, and obviously the wiki isn't gospel, it's a bunch of people like us trying their best to keep the community as informed as they can, but the wiki does say that memory tears can only be found in tier 14 maps and above. This is not the case. You can find them in yellow tier maps too. I don't know the lowest tier you can find them in, but I've so far found them in both tier 7 and tier 8. This then means that you can get a string of 5 or so yellow maps that you can roll more map percent chance on and chuck in some cheap 1 chaos multitude scarabs and an escalation, and you can farm over 100 yellow maps from a single memory tear when you do find one. Do make sure to take off all of your void stones though, otherwise you will not be dropping yellow maps at all. Just to make sure that this wasn't a one-off and it isn't something like you can find one memory tear per tier of map or something like that. I did make sure to run one single map over and over and over again. I picked tier 8 Tropical Island until I found two memory tears, which I did. So it's not a one-off event, it essentially just works as it does in tier 14 maps and above, with the only downside being it's likely a bit rarer since it won't be buffed by the increased chance on your Atlas tree to find memory tears. You can also find the originator influenced yellow tier maps. I found around four of these. Glacier ones specifically, they are seemingly much rarer than tier 16 originator maps, and I can only assume that is because you're running with zero void stones. They likely use the same system as tier 17 maps, but they do drop. So in past leagues, yellow maps which would cost anywhere from 5 to 10 chaos in bulk because of essence farming, and in the current league just aren't being sold at all, is now mass farmable when you find a memory tear in yellow tier maps. Not only that, but those memory tears can have a good chance for the essence memory altar, the free craft altar, and the boss will still drop a fragment. I dropped 3 reverence fragments in 50 maps, one of the most expensive fragments in the game, from memory tears that were generated in yellow tier maps. That is insane. So to sum it up, the new memory tier system and originator influenced maps can be found in yellow tier maps, which then solves the yellow tier map sustain issues of running scoured essence, and it adds a new layer of farming to yellow tier essences where you can now further buff essences from the altar and get boss fragments every now and then, ranging from 50 to 500 chaos. And just so you know that I'm not talking nonsense, you can see right here I have 500 or so yellow maps, almost all farmed from like 50 maps that I got through 3 memory tears. And now that I've talked about the changes to yellow tier essence farming, let me just talk about the strat in general as it stands in this league. The loot you can make, the scarab you use, and the tree that I've cooked up, it's just your regular yellow tier essence farming with a few league specific changes. First off, I opt for one calcification, which is around 50C at the time of buying it, one ascent, one stability, and two adversities. I don't opt in for an adaptation because I believe that it's actually pretty bait. Why opt in for a 20 chaos scarab when a 0.5 chaos scarab can accomplish very similar things? The adaptation scarab, it will move one essence to another, essentially making it so every time you kill an essence mob, you're getting one extra essence out of it. But when you're adding 8 additional essence mobs per map through adversities, that's automatically like 20 to 30 essences added on its own, and it doesn't add difficulty to essences like adaptation does. You then get a higher chance at finding purple essences to corrupt into 4 special ones, which to me seems more consistent than hoping that the adaptation picks a purple and special one to move. So in my opinion, the cheaper setup is the better setup. And to just expand on what I said at the end there, in case you don't know, in order to get one of these essences, you need to use a remnant of corruption on one of these essences. Only these 4 essences can turn into the 4 expensive ones on the right, so you really only want to be using remnant of corruptions on these specifically at the current price of remnant of corruption, which is like 7 chaos each. When you're in the map, the easy way to remember it is if you see a purple essence, corrupt it. The purple essence can be of any tier, it could be wailing, shrieking, it doesn't matter, you still corrupt it because if it hits the transform instead of upgrade option, it will always become one of these. You then run any yellow tier map scoured with the essence craft. Tier 6 is the lowest map you should ever do. I opt in for tier 7 Glacier since it's a very simple layout that you can Horizon Orb to, and you have to make sure that you unequip your Void Stones so you actually continue to drop yellow maps if you have all of your Void Stones equipped. You will not see any yellow maps dropping. Also make sure that your filter is showing yellow maps. If you're running a updated filter for tier 16 farming and you take it to yellow tier maps, you will be hiding all of the maps you're dropping. So if you're wondering why literally 0 are dropping, that is why. You then use this tree if it's scuffed. As always, I'll do a quick pass on it before uploading and the definitive version will be in the description. But in this tree you want to essentially take all of the non-committal mechanics in the game. You want to take Nico, which averages out to like 3 to 4 chaos profit per map for doing absolutely nothing because of this node, which can turn sulfite into azurite, which then you use to turn into resonators, which are currently selling for like 2.5 chaos each right now. You then want to take this Trial of Ascendancy node. This does not mean that you will be running Trial of Ascendancies all the time. It just means that when you see a trial and it says that it offers an improved offering, you would then run it, which is not very often, but that would give you a chance to drop either a 20, 100 or 200 chaos offering. People sleep on this node all the time for non-committal strats. In my opinion, it is easily one of the best inclusions. We then take Settlers, not for the Starfall Crater. As far as I'm aware, you cannot actually find that in maps lower than tier 16, but we do take it for the Lost Shipments. I made a video about Lost Shipments before if you want to see the sort of loot you can get from them, but you can hit pretty crazy jackpot items. I'd imagine the loot would be a bit worse in yellow maps, but I was still dropping like 5 to 30 chaos tattoos even in yellow tier maps. Some decent stacked decks, some good chaos from it, so in my opinion it's still worth running for these non-committal type strategies. And again, sort of the whole point of the video, memory tears do work in yellow tier maps, so we take this classic cluster up here. These small nodes will not work because they specify tier 16, but these big nodes will, which means you can still influence it towards an almost free divine drop. Having this jackpot in a strat that can take like 1 to 3 minutes to run per map all the way down in yellow tier maps is extremely good and one of the reasons why Essence is in such a great state. And then we obviously take all of the essence nodes, except from this one because it will brick your strategy. It will make you unable to corrupt for the 4 special essences, so we do not take the crystal resonance. And we chuck our final points into, like map chance, into blocking off certain mechanics to give us more ore chance for more lost shipments, and then just shrines, and that is pretty much the tree. As for the loot made, one thing I will say is I did not flip. Life Force prices are crazy right now. It would cost you something like 9 chaos per flip attempt through Harvest. It's like 30 blue juice for 1 chaos. And considering there's only like 3 essences worth flipping into, it doesn't really seem worth your time when you can just run more maps. At least at this specific moment, I do not believe it's worth your time. But I did list down all of my loot: 50 maps, almost 10,000 chaos made in essences alone, which is already something like 33 divine profit from essences alone, almost 2,000 chaos profit from the tears. I will say I do think I got a bit lucky finding 3 of them, considering I found one in 100 tier 60 maps earlier, but this sort of thing is what can happen now with the changes, and it happened to me, so it's nice to have the possibility for jackpots like this in yellow tier essences. So in the end, it's something like 40 divines profit or 15 divines profit an hour. That's with me being extremely generous on how long it took me to run this. Realistically, it did not take me anywhere as long as I put down. I wanted to put the average time you should expect rather than if you're playing with 1,000,000% efficiency. If I was to put down the rate that I was running it at, it would probably be above 20 divine profit per hour. But a 13 divine profit an hour floor that can shoot up to 15 divine profit with the new tiers, and then further shoot up to above 20 if you're going as fast as possible, is extremely good, and one of the reasons why Essence is in its best state in a while. And I'll just do a quick showcase. Essence is pretty simple, there's not really much variation in running it, but just to show, just in case you want that. Again, same scarab setup, same tree setup, ran on tier 7 Glacier. You can do anything from tier 6 to tier 11. We do not want to corrupt anything unless it has a purple essence modifier. Sometimes the dread essence will sort of look blue, especially if it's not deafening and it's more like, shrieking and below. Just keep that in mind, but usually you see purple, you corrupt, and if you see dread, you corrupt. You can see right here we've not found anything, so we're just clicking on everything really quick, and you'll see that this map will probably end up taking a lot quicker than what I averaged. That was Scorn, that is a purple, we corrupted it, and we got an Insanity, which is like almost 50 chaos from that one mob. Sometimes you'll get like multiple purples and it will transform, and you'll get 100 chaos, 150 chaos from a single mob, and that is insane. I think the most amount of chaos I made in essences alone from one map was like 500, which is a pretty big high roll, but that's what can happen. That one didn't transform, that one upgraded, which is a shame, and there's a few left over here. You never really have to go into the boss room. That one didn't transform, that upgraded, and that one didn't transform, that upgraded too. So we went like 1 in 5 in transforms, which isn't great, but still, that's what can happen. That's pretty much the video. I really just wanted to show off what I found in the lower tier essence farming, especially since there's a lot of question marks about how memory tiers work and if they even can show up in yellow tier maps. Yes, they can, and I wanted to share that. Essence farming right now, pretty good. If you need money for a low investment, both build wise and just currency per map wise, then definitely do this. If this video helped, consider subscribing, and yeah.